All right, I do want to welcome the Garcia family here. We've already said that once. We'll probably say it 100 times more. It is really good to have y'all with us today. They're not just our missionaries, they are our friends, and we are very grateful for that. I wish sometimes that we could do more. It feels like we don't do as much or as much as we would like to do at times, but we're very grateful that you are here with us today and that we're able to be a part of helping and providing for y'all in one aspect, but mostly for praying for you and trying to keep you encouraged as you go through the mission field. In a little while, they're going to come and share a little more, but one of the things I wanted to do, they have two countries that they love now, maybe more than that, but they have two that they really love. This country, that is their home country, but a country now that's becoming home to them. And I wanted to do just a little bit and have the national anthem for Honduras played for just a little while to give them a little touch of home there as well. I don't know if they want to sing that for us or not, but that's I looked up the words. I go back and I was like, is that the national anthem? Okay, that's it. So make sure that was it. It was a little different than ours, but I understand that. But just kind of give them a little taste of that. We want to continue to pray for Honduras. So as we've done so much, we don't just focus only on the missionaries that are there, but the purpose of why they're there, praying for the country, praying for the people. And we're going to learn a little bit about the country, a little bit about the people as well. I brought in a video that I wanted to share to elaborate a little bit on some of the conditions there in Honduras and what it's like there, and then we'll get a different perspective or a bigger perspective of that in just a little while. So let's watch this video.
In one of San Pedro Sula's most impoverished areas, Paula Portillo says her living conditions have become unbearable.
La puerta, mire, ve despegada.
How can someone live like this? Look, the door is unhinged. I asked God to let me live in a decent home and not live here anymore.
Las ratas los meten ahí.
Paula says rats are eating away at her bed and she struggles to feed her young children. She says she's planning to do what thousands of other Honduran nationals have done, migrate to the United States.
No crea, es bien preocupante la situación acá.
The situation in this country is awful. That's why people are migrating. I'd like to migrate too. I tell my two daughters we're going to leave. They say, yes, Mom, let's leave.
Across the street, Josue Mejia runs a small motorcycle repair shop, but he says business is bad and people are out of work. Several of his neighbors have already left the country.
Many people from this area have migrated. Friends of mine have left too, and for the same reason, because there's no work.
Josue told us if he can't make ends meet soon, he may also leave the country.
Honduras ranks among the poorest nations in the world, where 6 in 10 homes are subject to extreme poverty. A majority of families that live in this shantytown in the city of San Pedro Sula don't have access to medical attention or clean water or even electricity. One of the biggest obstacles to addressing this level of underdevelopment is violence.
Many of the thousands of Honduran migrants making their way to the U.S. southern border say they're fleeing violence from gangs and criminal groups. With 44 homicides per 100,000 people, Honduras suffers one of the highest murder rates anywhere in the world. But most Hondurans looking to leave the country blame poverty and a lack of opportunity for wanting to flee. For Paula Portillo, the decision to leave Honduras comes down to doing what's best for her youngest children and breaking the cycle of poverty. Manuel Rapano, Al Jazeera, San Pedro Sula.
I think the video shows a little bit about the condition there. One of the things I do want to mention is that one thing I read and saw is that despite the poverty, and there's many of the people that are there, like that's a portion of the land. It's a big problem that's there, but they're also a happy people. Maybe y'all find that to be true or not. I'm not really sure, but they're also, depending on where you're at, I don't want to just paint the whole country in one side, but I want you to see this side of it. There's another thing I wanted us to all see, is that yes, we know that America has an immigration problem, but one thing that gets grossly misrepresented is the reason we have that. People are not leaving just to come mooch off of America. They're leaving their homeland, their family, to survive. If we can ever remember that and see them as humans with a need, it can change how we approach the whole situation that we're in. We should never dehumanize people or belittle their situation for coming. And never take a small portion and measure a whole group by that. And I think seeing that with Honduras really makes a difference and brings it to heart. What would you do as a mother What would you do as a father with your children if traveling and enduring those hardships meant you're getting them to a place where they have a chance, just a chance, to have a life? That's the reason we pray. That's the reason we look beyond the rhetoric and we see people in the image of God with a need of salvation and a need of basic human needs. And we know that the situation is never simple. So we look to God for the answers. I've also put together a second video I wanted to bring in, and this one just reminds us that these people also need the Lord.
Every day they pass me by, I can see it in their eyes. Empty people filled with care, headed who knows where. On they go, private pain, living free to fear. Laughter hides their silent cries. Only Jesus hears. People need the Lord. People need the Lord. At the end of broken dreams is the openness. People need the Lord. People need the Lord. When will we realize people need We are called to take His light to a world where wrong seems right. What could be too great a cost for sharing life with one who's lost? Through His love, our hearts can feel all the grief they bear. They must hear the words of life. Only we can share. People need the Lord. People need the Lord. At the end of broken dreams is the openness. We need the Lord.
Today is part of having our missionaries come and give a report. It's also a part of us building relationships with them again. It's part of understanding that they are an extension of this ministry so that they can reach people that need the Lord that we cannot reach. And that we can reach people here while they're there. And sometimes, as I grew up in church, I understand that sometimes people think of missionaries as, it's great, it's wonderful that you have this desire to go live somewhere else, and kind of forget sometimes that it's also about, it's not just someone has a desire to go live somewhere else and reach other people, it's that they recognize they have a calling on their life from God to leave a place and go reach other people. And we're very grateful that God sends people to other parts of the world, but we want to do our part here as well. And so today we're going to pray for Honduras. We're going to ask God to touch the people there, to open up their hearts, their minds to the gospel, to make them receptive. I'm going to ask Chris to lead us in prayer for this today.
Dear God, Lord, we thank you for bringing us here, Lord. Pray that you just be with us today, Lord. May your spirit be with us today, Lord. And I pray you just bless this service. Help us to have our hearts ready to hear, eyes ready to see.
All right. All right, so now we actually have something else that we're going to do as we do this. We have something for y'all. So I want to ask y'all that you would come up here. And let's give them a hand as they come up. Just welcome them. All right, the Garcia family. First, why don't you go ahead and introduce your family to those that may not be familiar with you. I think many of the people were here before. Why don't you go ahead and introduce them?
Of course. My name is Andrew, of course. Then we got Sophia back in the nursery, Rosie, and my wife Amber. So we've been married about 5 years. I was in Honduras for a couple years before I got married, came back to the States and met my wife as she was a single missionary on deputation herself to go to Honduras. Stopped by the church I was doing an internship at, and so we got married about 9 months after we met, and it's been great. As you can see, this one was born in Honduras. Which is interesting thing about Honduran culture and a lot of Latin America, they always have those two last names from their parents. They don't take their husband's last name. But so when your kid is born, they automatically are given the parents two last names. But since my wife's legal last name is Garcia, her last names are Garcia Garcia. So double portion. Yeah, and she's great.
That's awesome.
So yeah, we're looking forward to going back in March to move to Tegucigalpa, the capital city. We're currently near San Pedro, which was shown in that video earlier, that area. So we're close to there, and then we'll be moving to Tegucigalpa to start our first church. Hopefully be holding our first services by June or July.
We're going to stop you right there. What we've done is we have some questions. You've probably seen me running around to everyone before and said, you got this question, you got this question, you got this question. So what we try to do is organize our questions before you got here, and that way we're going to have people ask. And so we're going to start with the first question. The first question is from Miss Erin, and so Miss Erin, if you would, and when y'all answer, just speak out really loud as if the people in the back can't hear. That way we'll know that everyone gets all of the answer and everything.
All right.
Okay, how has your experience in language school shaped your ministry preparation for Honduras?
So my language school was a bit unorthodox because I lived there for 2 years before I got married. I learned it pretty well there, and then I just had to kind of relearn. So I took about just 2 months with a tutor from the church. But how has it shaped? I've got a lot of interesting ideas to continue to broaden my Spanish vocabulary. For example, just meeting people from different professions, whether like a history teacher or a mechanic or whatever, and just learning from them, not only the words, right, the vocabulary that I need to learn, but also what their life is like. So getting to know people from different walks of life and just using my lack of knowledge of Spanish as an excuse to get to know people.
That's pretty good. Pretty good. Sammy.
I think the biggest takeaway I had from language school in regards to preparing for future ministry was the reminder that I can do nothing without the grace of God, because for me, it was very, very hard. I was in the middle of having a newborn. My health has not been great this past year. And there were so many days where I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I know as ministry starts, life is just going to get busier and more challenging. And so for me, it was a daily reminder that I can only do this by the grace of God, because otherwise it's not going to get done.
Amen. Kurt has question number 2.
So you kind of answered your biggest challenge, but the question is what were some of the biggest challenges you faced while learning the language, and how has that process impacted your ministry vision? So again, you said your biggest challenge, you were pregnant at the time, so I guess Andrew may can answer that one again. What were some of the biggest challenges that you faced?
Specific to learning the language was a lot of plans fell through. We had a plan to go to a language school, but they moved to a different city, the person who's teaching it and holding it. And so that fell through, and then there was an option to go to academy that they had in the area, but it was expensive, like almost college level expensive,
Wow.
even like state college prices. So like I tried to avoid that, but we got a tutors, figured out, and then I was trying to do 2 whole months, but he like quit after like 6 weeks. So then I just went from there, and it's like, we'll make up the rest and
Did you
other
wanna-
things. And
Do you want to add anything?
I think this isn't particular to language school, but something that challenged us and stretched us over the last year and a half was the climate. I don't know how to explain that, except it seemed like there was, okay, so the first couple months we were there, we were reacting to the grass in our yard. All of us had this horrible rash from like the ankles to our knees, all over. It was just like hives, really bad. And then we had a month where we didn't see the sun because of pollution in the air, and there was no wind, so it just sat over the
they
city.
burn their sugarcane fields every year. So
There would be a month where it would be really bad mosquitoes. We got mosquitoes that accidentally hatched in our house one month, and there were just swarms everywhere. So it felt like every month there was a new challenge from the climate that we had to learn how to adapt to.
it took a while to talk my wife into letting me get an AC unit. She felt bad because a lot of people don't have one. But our house was specifically built for AC units in mind. So if you don't have one, it gets like an oven.
It was like a crash course in adapting to that.
So,
Y'all are welcome to have a seat. We have several questions.
all right.
I think that'll pick up good. Speak really loud, because sometimes from the side, the mic does not pick up as good.
Mike
Actually,
is.
let me adjust this. Let's put your chairs behind it, and I'll lower this. That way we know the mic picks up when we get the recording. There you go. And then y'all can sit a little closer together.
That's good.
Does anyone have number 3? I don't think I assigned number 3 to anyone. It's mine then. Number 3. And you just mentioned this, so some of these questions you're anticipating, or you read ahead. I'm not really sure. But what are some of the cultural differences you encountered that have surprised you or inspired you?
Surprised. Convenience, or the lack of it there. Just knowing that if I walk into Walmart in the States for something, they're going to have it. Pretty much a guarantee, right? Or there was always Amazon, right? There, none of that. So it's this place might have it. They've had it before, but they might not have it now. They have it, but they might not have it next time I come. So I better get it, even if it's not the exact one I want.
Yeah.
Things like that, probably. The lack of a middle class, probably. So things that we would normally, that's a good price for what I need. Well, you don't want to buy the cheapest thing, as we found out, because that's what we went for the first couple months, is just buy a bunch of cheap stuff, right? It's good. Buy a couch. It'll last, right? No, it lasted about a year before it fell apart.
Oh, wow.
We bought a table set, with chairs and all that. 3 of the chairs had broken.
Oh.
And we're not
just
rough
a
on
year.
our furniture.
I don't think they had a 200-pound American in mind.
Yeah.
Those chairs. I broke them all. Just secrets out. Office chair lasted a month. Things like that. So then, guess we got to go with the higher price. But there's no middle ground really. So it's like more than I would like to pay, more than
Yeah.
I'm used to paying for stuff. But if you want something that's going to last.
I felt like we were in a new part of Honduras from where I had visited as a single, and I was surprised by how different, even though Honduras isn't very big, it's only like the size of like North Carolina, but there's different cultures, just like we have different cultures in different states here. So, if you go to Texas versus Maine, it's the same country, but they're gonna be different accents, different foods that are popular, different climate. And so I felt almost like I was in a new country. So that was new for me. I was like, oh, you like to eat your food that way here, or oh, that's what you like to do.
Culturally, it'd be kind of the difference between Florida and, say, Appalachian, West Virginia area.
We were in the Florida area. So everything was different.
Does anyone have 4? I don't think because I didn't get there one before. I'll take it. And you can keep this one, you might have already covered it some, you can keep it if you'd like. How are you preparing for church planning now that you've completed language school?
I've been taking, we've been doing a lot of driving these past couple weeks, but I've got my eye on some books to read, and lots of books to read. Basically, make a plan, where we're going to start our church. Just planning more than anything right now. It's nothing too complicated, but just reading books and planning.
So know that like the city you're going to is about 1 million people?
Yeah, about 1 million
About 1
people.
million people. So now I think you said just trying to find exactly within that city
Yes.
as well where to start.
So that's the struggle with there. In any city, it's hard to find a place to put a building. You can't really build a building, especially in Latin America. They like to build their homes in places really close together, just touching each other. There's already a wall there. That saves me some money, right? Or they just like to be close, right? That's really what it is. So it's hard to find a place to put a building. So we're looking at a place about 10 minutes outside of the city for our first church plant. Might be a good area called Zambrano. A lot of factories and a lot of housing for workers there. And so that looks like it might be a good place to have land to put a building on, and then in the future continue to expand, maybe put a Bible college and those kind of things. But if God opens the door for us to go right into the city like we'd like to, first term, that'd be great. But if not, we'll go a little bit outside of the city and just get to know people better and how things work there and get more and more into the city. So that would be the plan B.
Awesome. Number 5 is coming from Miss Tammy.
You just touched some on this basis, but we're interested in knowing what are some of your short-term goals as you transition into your full-time ministry in Honduras?
So in March, we moved back there. It will take about a month, I hope just about a month to move to the other city. We probably should go to the beach one more time before we leave and go to the mountains. Say goodbye to some friends, get some quality time. And just move up there, get our house situated, and then once my wife's relatively moved in, then start the church planting.
Anything?
Just moving is the big thing. Moving and
Yeah, I'm gonna pay someone to move the majority of our stuff because we drove up to Tegucigalpa through the mountains just with our car, and it's pretty steep and it was overheating. So I don't want to do that with a load of all our stuff. Pay someone to do that.
Number 5 is number 6 is coming from Christy.
How have the relationships you built during language school helped you in understanding the needs of the Honduran people?
I was so thankful to with the tutor that God provided for me. She's a young lady from the church that we've been attending, and she has helped me so much in just understanding how a young adult in Honduras thinks, because I've spent hours with her and she's teaching me, so she'll use stories and examples. And also we had a teenager in our church watch the girls, babysit the girls, and I would also interact with her because she would stay for lunch every day and we would talk. And I think I learned the most by figuring out what they were shocked at. I would just say something not thinking about it and they'd be like, what? And that's something that is not normal for you. And so just interacting with the two of them has really helped me get beyond just a surface level conversation with somebody and understand how a Honduran thinks and what is important to them and what's normal for them, and the kids in Bible club too. The kids are so honest. I find I learn a lot from them because they just say it like they're thinking it. So I probably have learned the most from the kids in the church and then also in the Bible club that we help with.
That's awesome. Number 7 from Miss Shirley.
What has God been teaching you through this period of preparation and transition?
We should have sent you all the questions ahead of time.
Yeah. I'm generally pretty laid back, just take things as they come, kind of personality. It is different though when you're with a family as opposed to when I was there when I was single. So just, my wife was talking about how much she struggled with a lot of things, health and just sometimes lack of confidence that she was going to get through language school. So it's hard to watch. It's like, what do I say to make this better? Kind of. It's like, I don't know. Just point her back to God continually.
No, we pray for you all a lot during that time.
So just the difference for me was the difference between being there as a single guy is like, I guess I could use a mattress. To being with a family. It's a big change, right? And so just knowing also, like, when do I step in and make her take a break? Because she's probably not going to do it herself.
Yeah.
So just navigating that, I guess.
Number 8 is coming from Ms. Hill.
What aspects or areas of your ministry in Honduras are you most excited to begin now that you've improved your language?
Well, actually, obviously, having our first service. Hopefully, we have some people there the first Sunday. I have hopes we will, because we'll have English classes, and right before the service on Sunday evenings, probably like 4 o'clock or whatever. Come and have an English class for free, and then, hey, you should stay for the service now, because you're already here. So I've seen that work. I've seen other missionaries do that very effectively, and grow churches that way in other countries. So we'll do that. So I'm confident that'll go pretty well. But if we're the only ones there the first few Sundays, it is what it is. So just other than that, really the thing I'm most excited in getting to, which would take some time, is seeing young men saved and grow in Christ and come to be in ministry. That's what our big goal is. Obviously, we're church planters, but you need men of God and women of God to be in those churches to proclaim the gospel. So that's what we're excited about seeing, is God changing lives, and I hope many Hondurans will far, far exceed me in ministry. That's our goal.
I'm pretty much the same. I'm excited as a wife and mom to be in this city, because it's a little easier just to live. It's a little cooler. We'll hopefully be in an area where, just life is a little easier. But ministry-wise, I'm so excited to be able to host people in our home for Bible studies and all. I'm just really excited.
That's awesome. Number 9 is coming from Noah.
How are you adjusting to daily life in Honduras, and what has helped you settle in?
In some ways it was easier, in some ways it was harder, because the answer is routine helps, because we did not have that on deputation. Just living out of your car, being in a different place every night. So that was great. It's like I have an office, I have my books with me, I can relax, I can eat at the same table every night. So just routine and doing fun things was what we tried to do.
I think the last few months, I don't know if you felt the same way. I really felt like I feel comfortable here. I feel like I can go out and find things, and I feel confident enough in my Spanish that I can navigate. The last few months I felt very,
There was
very
just
much
a
at
lot
home.
of hardships early on, some sickness, as my wife mentioned. Then they had the pollution when they were burning the sugarcane fields. So for about a month, they actually closed schools down for a couple weeks. And it was so much soot. If you left your windows open, you'd have to mop every day. Otherwise, it looked like you were walking through a fireplace.
Wow.
What else? Well, they had the construction they were doing on the highway for about 2 months. So normally a 5-minute drive to the grocery store now took 2 hours. So that was all in the beginning. A lot of stuff right after another. Eventually that kind of calmed down. The roads are better now, so not many potholes. So that's
and
nice.
we know more people too.
And we know more
so
people.
we feel more
I
connected.
got to meet some national pastors. Towards the end, I was getting more involved in different ministries, not just language school. So I got to help with medical clinics. Just being useful, I guess. Right? Because you go there and you're like, I sound like a baby, I'm sure, right?
Yeah.
At first, but just being used by God was a great help.
Ms. Edwards, that's number 10.
Can you share a story from your time in language school that showed you God's faithfulness?
And it's okay if you can't. I mean, that comes on, that's fine too.
Yeah, because language school was very brief for me.
Just,
but
I guess the first year or so there.
You got one? Well, I think.
I think you showed me God's faithfulness. Really, God worked really in our marriage a lot, and also just times where there'd be somebody at church or one of the other missionaries there that just offered the encouraging word when we needed it, or it was just those little moments. It wasn't like this big, complicated story. It was those little moments where...
About a month or two after we got there, we were working under Pastor Goins, and he lost his son. His son was in Pensacola Christian College, got hit by a drunk driver, and he was struggling a lot. It was like he's not faking it. Like it was tough, but he's definitely shown God's faithfulness in his life, so we get to see that. Just before we left, he went to the trial for the drunk driver, and he was saying before he went to the church, just being honest, I don't know if I can forgive this guy. I don't know what I'm going to say, what I'm going to do, if I should even go. But he was able to find that peace and that ability for forgiveness. And so just a wonderful testimony of God's faithfulness.
Number 11 is coming from, I think, Dee.
What specific prayer requests do you have as you move into the next phase of
ministry? Be a lot of things. Just getting settled into our home would be our first thing. Finding a place for our church. Seeing people saved. It's the biggest thing that we're looking forward to. Making as few mistakes as possible.
Anything?
I would agree with that, yeah.
All right, then Chris has our final question on our page.
All right, so how can we as a church best support and encourage you during this foundational stage of your work in Honduras?
Just keep praying. You have our contact information. When people reach out to us, like genuinely reach out to us, genuinely care, which I really do feel a lot from Shining Light and Pastor Clayton. That helps a lot. It means something, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we know churches read our prayer letters. I hope they do.
Yeah.
But when you show us that you do, that means a lot, and it's a great comfort. And if you want to come out someday and visit us, a mission trip, that would be awesome. So I think we're actually going to have some people come in August. Would be the earliest if you contact Vision Baptist Missions. They're setting some things up, or further down the road next year. That would be awesome. So we won't be back in the States until 29 or 28 probably. So it'll be a while. She'll be big.
Bigger and bigger, she keeps eating like this.
Does that mean anything?
I agree, just that contact, that genuine, and also I just have to say, I love that you're not just praying for us, but that you're praying for Honduras. Because, yes, we need your prayers and we appreciate your prayers, but it's so special to know that this country that we love so much and that God's used in our lives so much, to know that you guys also have a love for it and are praying for our country too means a lot.
I don't think I've ever seen a church take the time to put a presentation like that together. So that's great. You love Honduras. That means a lot to us.
Part of our goal is, my goal as a pastor is to try to help our church to not just support a missionary, but like, what we wanted to do is find a place we wanted to branch out our ministry and then partner with someone to be a part of that, so that we're not just supporting a family, but we're trying to spread the word of God to a specific area, learn more about that. I always feel like we could do better, but I'm glad that we can do some and try to help with that. One of the things that we do, you're well aware of, is, you know, each month we send a card to our mission families and stuff like that. I don't like to put people on the spot, but sometimes it helps as I'm trying to share this with the church, sometimes how much of a difference it makes. Can you share anything about what it's like to get a card from supporting church?
Right now, where we are, we can't get them
would
directly,
get
but our
digital
mission board
copies.
will scan them for us, and we'll get
Yeah.
a scan, and it's like, oh, they're thinking about us. They remember us. It's, I don't know, can you, I'm trying to find words.
Yeah, sometimes I'll print them out and give them to Sophia. She really likes them.
She'll use the copy of it as like a coloring page, and she'll like circle the names and trace the letters. And then she's like, Mommy, look, I got a card.
That is awesome. That is awesome. We really want to make a difference in the work of God in Honduras. We want to make a difference in y'all's life, and we want to say thank you. I know that, like with me in ministry, when people say thank you, I realize, like, you don't have to thank me. It's my calling. It's what I do. But it's also nice when people do recognize that you're making a sacrifice. You're doing these things. And we want to say to you today that we thank you. We thank you for the sacrifice, and realize that you're not living in those conditions just because you think it'd be neat or it'd be sweet to do something for God. But you have to stay in those things because of a calling that God keeps leading you through. We recognize that. Today we want to pray for you. We've prayed for Honduras. Today we want to pray for you as a family. We'll do that in just a little while, because we'll get Sophia back in here in just a second. Let's do that as a whole family. Is there anything else that y'all would like to share about, I did show the slides, I showed the things, and I did try to mention that, I don't want to paint all of Honduras as, a poverty-stricken town with sad people. And if there's anything that you would like to add and clarify for that?
Yeah, just share what I hear from Hondurans. So a lot of them would be of that mind, like, we need to get out of here, go to America, that kind of thing. I've heard the opposite too from Hondurans, especially older Hondurans, I'd say in their 40s, and so they'll complain. All the young people are leaving this country for what they think is something better, when they really just need them to stay here and help us, continue to strengthen our own country of Honduras. So that mindset I see both kind of presented, because there is a lack of jobs. A lot of times it's because immigration is part of the problem, because they have family members who go to the States and send them money back, which is nice in the short term, right, when they have a great need, but sometimes that creates a certain dependency.
Yeah.
So then they don't see a need to continue to grow their own country and get their own resources. It's a very complex thing,
We see that gangs are an issue there. Can you elaborate on any of that?
Yeah, it's not as bad as it used to be. A lot of gangs are realizing that just outright violence isn't necessarily the best business model, right? So diversifying, but they do take advantage of people for sure. There's a lot of, they call them multas, just like a tax on people. A lot of taxi drivers, for example, or bus drivers will end up having to pay half of their salary, close to half of their salary, to gangs. Protection money is just extortion, right? Things like that happen. I have a lot more to learn about it for sure.
Yeah.
It's not as bad as it used to be. A lot of the stories of the label murder capital of the world came from 2009 when there was a military coup. And so that is not true anymore. Not to the extent that it was back then, but it still has problems. I have never been robbed there. I think most Hondurans have had that happen to them at one point or another. I forgot my debit card in the ATM machine there once, and I went back about half an hour later, and the security guard had it. He said, You're an idiot American, but here you go. He's telling me everything bad that could have happened. So someone could have done, and it was in the machine, so someone could have just and it wasn't even finalized. They could have just
Which is bad.
So I've never had any problems. I'd like to say that again in 20 years. I don't know. I was actually robbed here. I bought a new computer from Amazon, and it wasn't even a porch pirate. Someone working in Amazon, I think, stole it. It's a complex thing. But I've never been robbed in Honduras, I'll say that. Crime is everywhere.
Yeah.
It's like New York City, Atlanta, Detroit, whatever. Just be smart about what you're doing. Try not to go out at night too much. Even a lot of Hondurans say, if you're out past 8, 10 o'clock, you're up to no good.
Is there a Bible verse or something that has stood out to you that's helped you through this time that you'd like to share with the church?
Not a specific one for the time. Just my general life verse, if I had to pick one that I really like, is Galatians 2:20. I'm crucified with Christ. Nevertheless I live, yet not I, but Christ liveth in me. The life which I live, I forget it in English exactly. The faith I now live by
faith in Christ.
Yeah.
Like that, yeah. One last thing before I get your family all back in here. I think she may need a minute. But even as people grow up in church here in America, they don't hear as much call or challenge to maybe go to a mission field or serve God in missions. And is there any kind of challenge you give to the adults and especially the young people to maybe serve God in missions?
Well, to circle back to the immigration issue, as I mentioned to someone before the service, America has the second largest Spanish-speaking population in the world, just after Mexico. You don't have to go to the field to reach somebody. Learn a little Spanish. Learn a little about culture. Invite some people over to your home. I don't get into politics too much. I am for secure borders, I'll say that. But it's happening. Whether they're illegal or legal immigrants, I have to remember I'm being an American is hardly the highest thing of who I am, right? It's not my identity. Shouldn't be. I'm a Christian. What does God want me to do about this issue? Specifically, I can think of one thing He wants me to do. Tell them about Jesus.
Yeah.
Show them the love of God. Sometimes, if I'm being brutally honest, I think the reason God, I guess we could say God allows this to happen, if we think of it as an issue. Why is He allowing all these immigrants to come into our country? Maybe it's because we didn't send enough missionaries.
Yeah.
And He's telling you, you won't go? I'll send them right to your doorstep. And you still won't tell them. Or will you? I hope you do.
I've shared very similar thoughts on that, is that God's bringing people to us that we haven't gone to, and leading us even with more accountability.
It's a great opportunity, one we should not ignore. Instead of us, the church, showing them love, and charity, I guess, and the government's doing it, and
Stay there. I'll come up. I just want to check, does anyone have, maybe some of the questions have prompted you to have another question real quick? Does anyone have another question for? Yes, Chris?
Yeah, you mentioned that you were, the potential of opening up the Bible school and things like that. That's kind of your vision in the area and stuff like that. Is that something that, eventually you want to have short-term mission people occasionally help out in that process?
as far as teaching,
Well, no, just maybe different church groups coming out and assisting and, helping with building
projects, stuff like that?
Oh, yeah, as I mentioned though, that depends on where we find a place to build. If we find just a building ready in the city, then maybe some remodeling kind of work. If we find land a little outside of the city someday, then just straight up building something, obviously, would be always a great help. There's a lot of ministries and things that do that. And yeah, eventually we'd like to have medical teams down someday as well. Medical Missions Outreach brings teams down. I was mentioning that. They do that with the Goins. So if we could have that someday, that's a great opportunity. Thousands of people would come. If we're in Tegucigalpa, I have no idea what the number would be, but in somewhere like El Progreso where we were, which is probably like the 5th biggest city in Honduras, probably has like, I forget the number, 60,000 people, just off the top of my head. But we'd have about 2,000 to 4,000 people come in a week, and every one of them would be given the gospel on a one-on-one conversation. So we'd like to have just a bunch of different opportunities to share the gospel with people. Or even if you don't have a specific skill, just handing out a gospel tract. My 3-year-old can do that, right? Just do it with a smile, right? I think she's better at it than me, though.
When I was in Puerto Rico, I went with the mission group family that I was with, and they had a daughter. So I was walking with her, and she was trying to tell me how to greet the people and stuff. And I said it a couple of times, and she looked at me. She said, "I'll say it." I just wasn't getting it, so it was hilarious. She's just like, "I'll say it." Let's just save some trouble, and I'll do it. All right. Thank you. Anyone else have questions, Ms. Edwards?
I feel like one of the biggest challenges anyone has to go to a foreign country would be the language. And since you're raising 2 children, how is it to teach them to talk? Do you teach them both bilingual, or do you teach them English, or do you teach them Spanish, or how do they get confused with the 2
Yeah.
languages?
Well, as far as teaching her, I think she's learned more from other toddlers in the nursery than she has from us. Hopefully all good things. But no, sometimes there's confusion. Sometimes she's hesitant to speak in Spanish. She's not as good at Spanish as she is in English. So sometimes she lacks the confidence. There's been some times when we've been back in the States where she's talked to people in Spanish. Just walking through the hotel to breakfast, she's like, "Hola, hola," that kind of thing. We walked into a Mexican restaurant. I had to remind myself, oh, I don't have to speak Spanish here, right? We're in America now. But that didn't stop her, so we got pulled into some conversations with the waiter. One guy from Honduras directed him to a local Spanish-speaking church in his area. Just opportunities arise. But yeah, there's some confusion in words. Sometimes I think there's words that she does not realize are not English. So sometimes she's like, I don't want to speak Spanish, because she's still, it's a pride thing. Adults have it too. We feel self-conscious. But sala cuna is what she calls nursery. She does not, I don't think she knows it's not an English word. Same thing with sandia, watermelon. She doesn't know. It's mixed. So eventually that gets straightened out as she gets older and figures out all the differences. But it's...
Noah, did you have a question?
So first I want to say that I think it's really encouraging to me that how hard it can be sometimes to bring conversations up with people, or to just people we don't know, just to be able to share the gospel, or just that type of stuff in conversation starters. But I guess the question is what are some things that you all do, especially going to, I guess, a foreign land, like when you first got there? What are some things that kind of helped you to be able to start conversations and things like that?
Have 2 beautiful girls. Yeah, that you don't even have to try. They just come up to you and start it themselves. Oh, those pretty blue eyes and all that. Yeah. Other than that, just as far as bringing up just Jesus there, it's a lot easier there than it is here in the States. We have this, we're not supposed to talk about politics or religion to just strangers. They don't care in Honduras. At least not about Jesus, right? Most people love to talk about it. The problem often, though, is even though most People love to talk about Jesus and believe in Jesus, believe that he even died on the cross to pay for their sins. It's always Jesus and you have to go to this church, and you have to give money, and you have to do all these things to go to heaven, when it is just Jesus. So that is the problem when you start pointing out to them, no, your works do not save you. The Catholic Church is not going to save you. No specific church is going to save you. Only Jesus can save you. So when you start saying those things, they might get a little offended. But it's necessary.
That's awesome.
And
Thank you.
Jesus is my friend. I love to talk about my best friend. So keep that in mind.
It's awesome. I think it's encouraging to see and to learn. I know that a lot of times you're brought into a church and you're asked to preach, and we did things a little different. We tend to do that a lot of times with the missionaries because we want to spend some time to get some questions, to learn, to know, because when we say we're praying today for the Garcia family, or we say we're going to send a card to the Garcia family, I want something real and tangible to connect with people and to think about their work. So let's give them a hand today for doing such a great job, and give yourself a hand for asking the question. So y'all survived all of that. You did really good. All right, Miss Amber, if you come back up here, we have just a couple of things left, and we'll slide these chairs right back over here. We're getting ready to close out. We do appreciate y'all coming. There's my friend Sophia. She is my friend. We became friends the first time they were here, and I gave her sugar. Yep, she had snacks and icing, and she sat in my lap and ate sugar, and then they said, yeah, she never really had sugar before. So that's my bad. We have a couple of things for y'all. First of all, always for coming. We want to help support the ministry and the traveling, the things that you'll do. We also have learned through the years that has to kind of go to family and ministry things, and sometimes that the wife doesn't always get spoiled a little bit. So we have bought you a $100 gift certificate card to Belt Leggett. We'd like for you to go there and spend that for you. So that way, a little guilt-free spending. It's like it's not coming out of the budget, or something else is sometimes a real blessing. And then also for the girls, we have gifts for them today as well. Before I hand them to them, okay, well, never mind. I knew she was my friend.
Thank you.
There you go. You're welcome. You're very welcome. One of the things we want to do now is pray for the Garcia family. And so we're going to do that. So first I'm going to ask Josh to pray. I'm going to ask Noah to pray. And then I'm going to ask Kurt to close us out.
Dear God, thank you for allowing this family to travel and speak to other people that's never heard about you, and thank you for what you're allowing us to do to help them, and the things that they've taught us today, let us learn them also and take them out as we leave today. Thank you again, and for your blessings, and please help them safe travels and their new start in your church.
Noah.
Father, come to you this morning. I just want to thank you for bringing the Garcia family here to visit us, Lord. It's just always a pleasure to see how they've grown, see how the family's grown, Lord, and just see how you protected them and used them, Lord. Lord, I just thank you for keeping them safe, Lord, and I pray that you would just keep them safe. And many of their friends and families say that they travel and they just go spread the word, Lord. Lord, it's such a pleasure to know people that will just step out and do something like this, Lord, as it can be challenging sometimes just to speak to people. And I just thank you for giving them the knowledge and the courage to do that, Lord. And I just pray that you just encourage them, keep them safe, and we just thank you for all that they do. In Jesus' name.
Lord, as we continue in prayer, I just think about, Lord, the story of how you put a love for Honduran people, Lord, in the heart of both Andrew and Amber, Lord, even though they didn't know each other at the time. Lord, I thank you for bringing them together, Lord, for the family that they are. Lord, I just ask that you would just help them as they're here in the States, Lord, to be able to experience some of their friends, Lord, again, to get out to other places, Lord, that will pray for them, Lord, churches that will give to them, Lord, that'll keep them in their prayers, Lord, that will send them encouraging messages. God, I pray that you will just let that come at the right time in their lives, Lord. Lord, at times, if they're feeling down, Lord, that they will just get that call or that card, Lord, or Lord, just feel your presence there from a prayer. God, I just again thank you for them. Lord, I ask that you would just give them safety in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. All right. I'm going to let them go down to the back there. I'm going to let you have time to talk with them. I know y'all smell some food. Yes, we did prepare some food